The rain hammered against the windows of our Seattle home, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I'm Alistair, a software engineer, 44 years old. My life until recently had been a predictable, comfortable algorithm of work, family, and quiet evenings. My wife, Bronte, a vibrant art teacher, was the splash of color in my otherwise grayscale existence, or so I thought. The first flicker of suspicion came subtly, like a glitch in a well-coded program. Bronte, usually an open book, started keeping her phone closed, turning away when a message popped up. Her laughter, once a constant melody in our home, became muted, reserved for calls she took in the hallway. I chalked it up to stress from work, the usual ebb and flow of life. I was so naive. Then came the late nights at the gallery, a new artist collective she'd joined downtown. She'd return with stories of struggling artists and avant-garde installations, her eyes shining with a passion I hadn't seen directed at me in years. I was proud of her, supportive. I even helped her set up a website for the gallery, oblivious to the digital breadcrumbs she was leaving behind. One evening, while Bronte was at the gallery, I decided to surprise her with dinner. I picked up her favorite Thai takeout and drove downtown, humming along to the radio, imagining her delighted face. The gallery, a converted warehouse in a trendy part of town, was dimly lit, the windows painted over with abstract murals. I pushed open the heavy steel door, the scent of paint and possibility thick in the air. "Bronte, I brought dinner," I called out, my voice echoing in the cavernous space. No answer. I walked deeper into the gallery, past sculptures made of scrap metal and canvases splashed with vibrant colors. Then I heard a soft giggle, followed by a low murmur. The sound was coming from a small office tucked away in the back corner. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached the door, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. What if I was wrong? What if it was just a harmless conversation? But the knot tightened, pulling me forward. I pushed the door open. The scene that unfolded before me was like a punch to the gut, a fatal error in my life's code. Bronte was there, all right, but she wasn't discussing art. She was entwined with a man I'd never seen before, a younger, scruffy-looking artist with a smug grin on his face. Their lips were locked, their bodies pressed together in a way that made my blood run cold. The takeout containers slipped from my grasp, splattering pad thai across the floor. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by Bronte's gasp. She pulled away from the artist, her face a mask of shock and guilt. "Alistair, what are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice trembling. I couldn't speak. The air was thick with betrayal, the smell of pad thai mingling with the lingering scent of their infidelity. I just stood there, frozen, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. The artist, emboldened by Bronte's presence, stepped forward, a sneer playing on his lips. "Can I help you, mate?" he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That was enough to break the spell. Rage, hot and blinding, surged through me. I lunged at him, grabbing him by the collar and slamming him against the wall. You bastard!" I roared, my voice raw with fury. Bronte screamed, trying to pull me away, but I was beyond reason. All I could see was the smug look on his face, the image of him kissing my wife. The fight was short and brutal. I landed a few solid punches before Bronte managed to separate us. The artist, sporting a bloody nose and a rapidly swelling eye, glared at me with hatred. "You haven't seen the last of me," he spat, wiping the blood from his face. I didn't care. I turned to Bronte, my heart aching with a pain I had never known. "How could you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "How could you do this to me?" She burst into tears, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before my eyes. "Alistair, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened," I repeated, my voice laced with disbelief. "You didn't mean for it to go this far. You were kissing him, Bronte, in the back of your gallery. How much further did you think it would go?" She had no answer. She just stood there, weeping, her eyes pleading for forgiveness. But there was no forgiveness in my heart, only a cold, hard emptiness. I turned and walked out of the gallery, leaving Bronte and her artist lover behind. The rain was still falling, washing the city clean, but nothing could wash away the stain of her betrayal. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and sleepless nights. Bronte begged me to reconsider, to give her another chance. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she still loved me. But I couldn't trust her anymore. The image of her in that office, wrapped in the arms of another man, was seared into my brain, a constant reminder of her deceit. Our divorce was swift and brutal. I took everything I could, not out of greed, but out of a need to reclaim some semblance of control over my life. I sold our house in Seattle and moved to a small town in Oregon, seeking solace in the quiet solitude of the mountains. I threw myself into my work, coding day and night, trying to fill the void in my heart with lines of code. But the pain lingered, a dull ache that refused to go away. I was angry, hurt, and utterly lost. I didn't know who I was anymore or what I wanted from life. One evening, while scrolling through social media, a habit I knew was unhealthy but couldn't seem to break, I stumbled across Bronte's profile. She had posted a picture of herself and the artist, their arms wrapped around each other, their faces beaming with happiness. The caption read, "Living our best life together, so grateful for everything." A wave of nausea washed over me. I wanted to scream, to smash my computer, to erase them both from existence. But I didn't. I just stared at the picture, my heart aching with a renewed sense of betrayal. Then something shifted inside me. The anger, the hurt, the pain, it all coalesced into a single, burning desire: revenge. I wasn't a vengeful person by nature. I had always believed in turning the other cheek, in letting karma take its course. But Bronte had shattered my faith in karma. She had taken everything from me, and she was now flaunting her happiness in my face. I couldn't let her get away with it. I started small, anonymously posting negative reviews of the gallery online, highlighting the artist's lack of talent and Bronte's questionable ethics. It was petty, I knew, but it made me feel a little bit better. Then, I decided to take things a step further. Using my skills as a software engineer, I hacked into the gallery's website, replacing their carefully curated artwork with pictures of Bronte and the artist in compromising positions. I even added a caption: "This is what real art looks like." The website was taken down within hours, but the damage was done. Word spread quickly through the local art scene, and the gallery's reputation plummeted. Artists started pulling their work and customers stopped coming. Bronte and the artist were ostracized, their dreams of success crumbling before their eyes. But it still wasn't enough. I wanted to hit them where it really hurt: their relationship. I started sending anonymous messages to the artist, revealing details about Bronte's past, her insecurities, her flaws. I painted a picture of her as a manipulative, selfish woman who was only using him for his talent. It worked. The artist started to question Bronte's motives, their relationship strained by suspicion and distrust. They started arguing, their once harmonious existence now filled with conflict. I watched from afar, a dark satisfaction creeping into my heart. My revenge was working. Bronte and the artist were miserable, their lives falling apart. But as I watched them suffer, I realized something. It wasn't making me happy. The emptiness inside me was still there, as vast and unforgiving as ever. My revenge had given me a temporary sense of control, but it hadn't filled the void in my soul. I was still alone, still hurting, still lost. I realized that I had become the very thing I hated: a bitter, vengeful person consumed by anger and resentment. I had let Bronte's betrayal define me, turning me into someone I didn't recognize. I knew I had to stop. I had to let go of the anger, the resentment, the need for revenge. I had to forgive Bronte, not for her sake, but for my own. It wasn't easy. It took months of therapy, meditation, and soul-searching. But slowly, gradually, I started to heal. I started to focus on myself, on my own happiness, on building a life that was free from the shadow of Bronte's betrayal. I reconnected with old friends, took up hiking, and even started dating again. It wasn't perfect. There were still days when the pain would resurface, when the memory of Bronte's betrayal would sting like a fresh wound. But I learned to cope with it, to accept it as a part of my past, not my present. One day, I received a letter from Bronte. She apologized for everything she had done, acknowledging the pain she had caused me. She said that her relationship with the artist had fallen apart, that she had realized the mistake she had made. She didn't ask for forgiveness, but she hoped that one day I would be able to move on. I read the letter, my hands trembling. For a moment, I felt a flicker of anger, a desire to lash out, to remind her of the pain she had inflicted on me. But then, I remembered the peace I had found, the happiness I had created for myself. I took a deep breath and wrote her a short reply. I forgive you, Bronte. I hope you find happiness. I sealed the letter, walked to the mailbox, and dropped it in. As I watched it disappear, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The past was finally behind me. I was free. I never saw Bronte again. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved to Europe seeking a fresh start. I hoped she found it. I hoped she found happiness, not for my sake, but for her own. I continued to live my life in the small town in Oregon, surrounded by the beauty of the mountains. I found love again, a woman who appreciated my quiet strength and my unwavering loyalty. We built a life together, filled with laughter, companionship, and mutual respect. I learned a valuable lesson from my experience with Bronte. That revenge is a hollow victory, that forgiveness is the only path to true healing, and that happiness is not something you find in another person, but something you create for yourself. And as the rain continues to fall outside my window, I am grateful for the storm that once raged inside me, for it ultimately led me to a place of peace, acceptance, and unwavering self-love. Summary. Alistair, a software engineer, lived a comfortable life in Seattle with his wife, Bronte. His world shattered when he unexpectedly found Bronte in an intimate embrace with another man at her art gallery. Consumed by rage and heartbreak, Alistair divorced Bronte and sought solace in a quiet town in Oregon. Initially, he pursued revenge, sabotaging Bronte's career and relationship with her lover. However, he soon realized that revenge only deepened his own pain and emptiness. Through therapy and introspection, Alistair learned to forgive Bronte and focus on his own healing. He found love again and built a fulfilling life, understanding that true happiness comes from within. Alistair's journey underscores the futility of revenge and the transformative power of forgiveness. To anyone facing similar challenges, remember that healing is possible. Focus on your own well-being, seek support, and understand that forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing yourself from the chains of anger and resentment. Your path to peace begins with self-love and acceptance. Take care.